I was in the left lane doing 120 with normal traffic, and it was as if I was parked on the highway when they passed me. The speed was insane the way they passed me in oncoming traffic.
A wrong-way driver in a cargo van speeding west along the eastbound lanes of the 401 with police in pursuit. It all ended in a horrific crash that killed 4 people. Good evening. Among the dead, an infant and their grandparents. Investigators say it all began with a robbery at an LCBO in Clarington and ended with that crash on the 401 in Whitby.
Tonight, questions are being raised about whether police should have been pursuing the suspect vehicle down the highway. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live tonight along the 401 with the latest. Raheem.
Nathan and Michelle, there are still several questions that the Special Investigations Unit is working to answer tonight, including what went into that police decision to pursue a suspect vehicle that was traveling on the wrong way on a busy stretch of roadway that ultimately led to the death of 4 people. A trail of debris littered across Highway 401, with 6 vehicles involved in a fiery crash, including this transport truck, which had its front cab completely smashed in. A tragic end to a dangerous event, which claimed the lives of 2 grandparents and their grandchild.
3 individuals from a civilian vehicle were also pronounced deceased at the scene. And in that vehicle were a 60-year-old, a 55-year-old, and an infant.
Police say the incident first began in Clarington just before 8 o'clock Monday night. An off-duty police officer saw a robbery in progress at the LCBO. Sources say he confronted the suspect who brandished a knife. That's when the officer backed off and alerted Durham Regional Police.
Officers followed the cargo van through numerous streets in Durham region as the vehicle drove erratically.
Over the next 20 minutes, police chased the suspect, who then got onto the 401 in Whitby, but was traveling the wrong way.
I saw his white headlights coming at me, and I thought to myself, is this guy going the wrong way? Yes, he is.
This dashcam video shows a vehicle alertly pulling over to avoid the van traveling westbound in the eastbound lanes. Seconds later, a police cruiser passes in pursuit.
He was going fast. I'm pretty sure that van was probably at the top speed that it could do.
A short while after that, the suspect vehicle crashed and the driver was killed. Public safety analysts say there are a number of different factors police must quickly consider when deciding whether to continue a chase or call it off.
So the wrong way on a highway, a busy time of the day, lots of traffic volume.
For nearly the next 14 hours, vehicles were stuck in standstill traffic, with lanes closed in both directions from Lake Ridge Road to Brock Street, as crews brought in a dumpster to clear mounds of tangled metal and tow away the tractor. Ontario's Premier offering his condolences.
This is a tragedy, just such a sad situation for the family.
Just before 10 a.m., all lanes were reopened, with the Special Investigations Unit taking over the case. Police tell us that another civilian who was part of that 6-vehicle collision also did need to be taken to hospital to be treated for serious injuries. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. The chase was witnessed by hundreds driving along the 401 last night.
Watching as a cargo van drove through oncoming traffic with police in pursuit. Our Mike Walker has been speaking with witnesses and joins us now live tonight with what they are saying. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Nathan, witnesses describe a frantic scene as a suspect vehicle with police in pursuit were driving at a high rate of speed, passing them on the highway. Going the wrong
Viewer
way.
video shows a white cargo van going in the wrong direction on the eastbound 401 in Whitby at a high rate of speed as it's pursued by Durham police.
Probably at a rate of 160, 180 kilometers. So I was in the left lane doing 120 with normal traffic, and it was as if I was parked on the highway when they passed me.
Brody Mills was in a vehicle in the westbound lanes near Thixon Road just after 8 last night and immediately started recording this video when he saw flashing police lights in his rearview mirror.
The cop and the van, they were traveling in the middle of the lanes, and then it was on the shoulder and then back in the middle lanes. Like, they were crisscrossing traffic in and out. It was insane.
The province's police watchdog says Durham police were in pursuit of the vehicle after a robbery at this LCBO in Bowmanville. The SIU says a cargo van entered the highway at Stevenson Road in Oshawa, heading in the opposite direction.
As they got closer and closer, it became evident that they were on our side of the road and was able to move over to the right as quickly as possible to avoid them.
Daryl Collette was driving in the eastbound lanes.
Pretty significant police presence, as I say, probably between 15 to 20 cars. I would say majority of them, probably the 10 to 12, are on the actual eastbound, driving westbound, following behind. And then there was also a number of vehicles that were in the westbound lanes, express lanes, chasing as well.
Moments after, witnesses describe hearing what sounded like an explosion. Then to find traffic come to a halt and a fiery crash in the eastbound lanes.
We did hear the explosion of the car. Well, I was probably about a kilometer when they got it stopped, and looked like there's one or two vehicles on fire, and there was a transport just in pieces along with the van.
Now learning of the tragic outcome, an infant and their grandparents among the 4 dead.
It's pretty insane. I was hoping somebody would have called it off before it got to that point.
Struggling to comprehend what they witnessed. Witnesses we spoke with still in shock but relieved they were not involved in this collision, but tonight are asking if this tragedy could have been avoided. Reporting live on Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. A cyclist is dead after being struck by a vehicle in Yorkville this afternoon.
Police now investigating what caused the collision. CTV's Siobhan Morris is live tonight with the latest. Siobhan.
Well, this stretch of Avenue Road would normally be bumper-to-bumper traffic at this time of day, but right now it is closed to traffic as police investigate this fatal crash. It happened a little before 1:30. Police say a man on an e-bike was hit by a turning flatbed truck. The flatbed had been turning into a construction site. We know that there was somebody working on that construction site on scene directing traffic, holding back northbound lanes, and we understand that the truck had been turning from the southbound side. Police have been spending the last several hours trying to understand exactly how this happened, including whether or not there's the possibility that the cyclist was in the driver's blind spot. Here's what police had to say about that.
That's going to be part of the investigation. We have to make that determination through a mechanical inspection of the vehicle to see what their field of view was at the time, the height of the driver, the height of the rider once he was on his bicycle, and all of those different things that would come into a factor. But it certainly suggests that perhaps the individual did not see them making that turn, but that again is part of the investigation that we have to undertake.
Police say that the man riding that e-bike was 39 years old. He died in hospital. The bike he was on torn into 2 pieces. It's being collected right now by Toronto police. They'll be examining that to look for more clues about how exactly that happened. There's still some investigation that needs to happen at the scene. The truck is still here and will need to be moved before traffic can flow through this area again. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still to come tonight, the Ford government's controversial Highway 413 will start construction next year. The Premier says it'll be a game changer for the region. We'll have reaction from residents just ahead. But first, here's a live look outside. Still cloudy, but there is a gradual warm-up along the way with some sunshine. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jessica.
We have to get through the fog and the cloud cover first, Nathan. And as we step in towards the rest of our evening, though it stays mild, we're still contending with at least the chance of a few, light droplets here and there, although the bulk of that system really has pushed its way further east. As we head in towards the day tomorrow, we welcome in the month of May in a really seasonable way. It is going to be beautiful outside and then through the end of the week into the 20s. But for now, we're sitting at 15 here in the city, 21 though in Hamilton, 22 through Windsor, and it stays mild. For the folks that are down at Maple Leaf Square this evening, it is going to be a little cloudy, but mostly dry, and you're holding on to kind of around 10 degrees for the majority of the evening and a fairly light wind. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including temperatures in the 20s before the week is all said and done. But for now, I'll send things back over to you guys.
Thank you, Jess. And with patio weather on the horizon, the city announces a start date for the CafeTO program tonight. Why the city says the rollout will be smoother than last year. That story just ahead. But first, it all comes down to tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. A win, and their season continues. A loss, and it is all over.
The Leafs are in Boston down 3-1 against the Bruins. And the big question, will the league's leading scorer take the ice? CTV's Sean Leathong is live outside Scotiabank Arena with the details. Sean.
Nathan, Michelle, we got a bit of a bird's eye view over the crowd here at Maple Leaf Square tonight. Take a look at what we're showing right now as the people have been filing in ever since 5 o'clock. We're still about an hour until puck drop, and it wasn't filling up as quickly as it has in the past, but in the last few minutes, it's gotten a lot louder, it's gotten a lot larger. The crowd seems to be ramping up, but there is a certain amount of energy inside here that's been different than other games because they know the series is 3-1 Boston. The Leafs have to win tonight. They have to win right now.
Shopping for Leafs gear before heading home to Newfoundland, Adam and Sarah Boland share differing opinions on the Leafs' chances.
I still think they got enough talent to pull it off. They just got to come together, play well, take one game at a time, anything can happen.
I'm probably more of the cynic in the relationship. He likes to have faith that they still have a chance. I'm more, that wasn't a great few games, so I'm not as confident as he is, but I'd love to see them win. I still think they can do it.
Marchand to Pasternak, he scores!
Trailing Boston 3-1 in their opening round playoff series, the odds certainly are against the Leafs, with just a 12% chance of winning.
Honestly, it's been gut-wrenching because I feel like we haven't played, other than Game 4, we haven't played terrible hockey.
For fans of Maple Leaf Square, the energy can only be described as nervous.
Well, you gotta. I mean, they've been rocky the last couple of games, but we need a strong start out of them.
Leafs in 7, though. I got confidence.
I think fans are just kind of getting tired of the same stuff every year, but hopefully this year might be a little different.
On top of that, Austin Matthews skated only briefly this morning in Boston before leaving the ice, raising the potential that the league's leading scorer could miss Game 5.
Working through things to try to make himself available to play. No determination at this time.
Leafs players are trying to focus on any positives.
Last time we were in this building, we won a game and keep that momentum going here tonight. We've put 3 games together before, right? It's it's not out of the realm to do it again.
Just last season, the Bruins gave up a 3-1 lead to the Florida Panthers, but players aren't putting much stock in Boston's recent past.
That was last year. I think if you go back in time, there's plenty of examples of teams overcoming challenges.
But if the team cannot pull off the improbable, questions are coming for a group that has always performed in the regular season.
But in the playoffs, it's mostly been a dud. It is time for a significant tectonic change, not something small.
Go, Leafs, go! Go, Leafs, go! Go!
So when it happens tonight, there may be somebody else in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's speculation that Joseph Woll will make the start instead of Ilya Samsonov. So a different look for the team tonight, and they know they have to do it. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leith.
Loving the energy. Thank you, Sean. 4 people were taken to hospital this afternoon after a truck exploded at a Green for Life facility in Pickering. This happened at the GFL location near Toy Avenue and Bailey Street around 2:40. According to Durham police, 2 people were taken to hospital with what are described as serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Another 2 people suffered minor injuries.
A large pothole on the 401 east of Yonge caused trouble for a number of drivers today. The left lane of the eastbound collectors was blocked for a time this morning. A number of vehicles were forced to pull over because of the pothole, and some of them were damaged.
There was about a dozen vehicles involved in the initial response that hit that pothole, resulted in tire failures and deflations. Obviously people getting caught by surprise. I talked to an officer who also responded to the situation and saw and felt the pothole himself. I was surprised that he didn't have a flat himself, but it is certainly an issue that we're dealing with. The MTO are on scene, and hopefully we'll have that pothole repaired and all lanes should be reopened shortly. But again, it was certainly a challenging situation for about a dozen motorists this morning that had flat tires and damage to their vehicle because of this pothole.
The lane has since been cleared. Toronto's police chief apologized for wishing for a different outcome in the death of a police officer, as the chair of the city's police services board called for cooler heads to prevail.
As CTV's John Woodward reports, critics wonder if the board is doing enough in the wake of the Umar Zamir case.
I apologize for my choice of words in those early moments outside the courthouse.
A chastened police chief took his apology to the city's police service board Tuesday, just over a week after he said this when a jury delivered its not guilty verdict to Umar Zamir.
I share the feelings of our members who were hoping for a different outcome.
Chief Demkew was flanked by officers, one of them Sergeant Lisa Forbes, Detective Constable Northrup's partner the night he was run over in the City Hall parkade. And she was one of the witness officers whose credibility was doubted by the judge, who highlighted for the jury that the testimony did not match the physical evidence. Zamir testified he was just visiting downtown Toronto for Canada Day with his pregnant wife and child. He thought he was being attacked and had no idea he was being approached by plainclothes officers. The justice system prosecuted him anyway. Unusual enough, this retired lawyer believes Zamir may be entitled to have the government pay his legal fees.
A Superior Court judge in a criminal case does have a power, rarely used, to award costs against the Crown where the Crown has conducted itself in an improper manner.
The death of Detective Constable Northrop was a terrible tragedy.
Board Chair Ann Morgan didn't propose any other oversight measures in the meeting, which saw at least one arrest. She just supported existing reviews by the TPS and OPP and seemed to respond to calls for the chief's resignation.
I am asking our community to let cooler heads prevail.
The chair didn't address calls from the Toronto Police Accountability Coalition to have an independent police force investigate if an officer dies on the job and to have an independent lawyer provide advice on possible criminal charges. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association believes the board must do more than just move in step with the police service.
Cooler heads prevailing means that instead of reflexively defending a police service or a chief of police, that an oversight body says we hear the public's concerns, and it's important that we respond to them.
The ultimate authority, the provincial government.
It's a sad situation, and hopefully that will never happen again. But I can tell you one thing, I support our police 1,000%.
As the fallout continues over Northrop's death and Zamir's prosecution. John Woodward, CTV News.
Montreal police are trying to figure out the best course of action after being called to help dismantle a pro-Palestinian encampment at McGill University. In a statement today, the school's president said, "As we have failed to reach a resolution yesterday late afternoon, we took the final step in our protocol and requested police assistance. Police representatives who have expertise in skillfully resolving situations such as these are beginning their own process. We continue to work with them to resolve the matter." Dozens of tents remain pitched on a field at McGill. The protesters say they won't leave until the school and nearby Concordia University divest from all companies they claim are profiting from genocide.
We saw a similar occupation of McGill's arts building 2 years ago now. This was students who called on McGill to divest from companies, from fossil fuel companies. And after that occupation, which is hugely successful, lots of teach-ins, lots of student involvement, McGill did end up divesting from fossil fuel companies. And so we hope that this movement, this occupation, this encampment will have similar effects.
Two McGill students are seeking an injunction in Quebec's Superior Court against the protesters. McGill has said many of the activists are not members of the school community, and it has seen evidence of some people using anti-Semitic language and intimidating behavior.
Universities are places of learning. They're places for freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of ideas. But that only works if people feel safe on campus. Right now, right across the country, Jewish students do not feel safe.
Protesters have also set up tents at the University of British Columbia's Point Grey campus. The University of Ottawa has warned encampments will not be tolerated.
Meantime, fences have been erected at the University of Toronto to prevent unauthorized protests. In a message to students, the university says it respects the right to protest within the limits of U of T policies and the law. However, U of T says unauthorized activities such as encampments or the occupation of university buildings would be considered trespassing. In New York, Columbia University is threatening to expel protesters who are occupying an academic building on campus. Shortly after midnight, the activists seized Hamilton Hall and blocked the entrance. One of the negotiators from a coalition of protest groups said the students had to do things differently because the administration did not listen to their demands. One of those demands is Columbia's divestment from companies that support the Israeli government. Students at dozens of campuses across the U.S. have set up similar tent encampments.
In France, hundreds of demonstrators gathered outside the Paris 2024 Olympics headquarters today. They say the Israeli delegation should compete under a neutral banner at the upcoming games. Protest organizers criticized the organizing committee's handling of the situation. They pointed out action was taken regarding Russian and Belarusian athletes after Ukraine was invaded, and South Africa was banned in 1964 because of apartheid.
Israel's prime minister says there will be a ground invasion of Rafah with or without a ceasefire deal. Benjamin Netanyahu made the comment during a meeting with families of fallen Israeli soldiers and hostages being held in Gaza. He said Israel will enter the southern city to destroy Hamas battalions there. About 1.4 million Palestinians are jammed into Rafah and its surroundings, most fleeing their homes elsewhere.
Efforts are underway to reach a truce that would avert the Israeli offensive in Rafah, free the hostages, and bring some relief to the population in Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Tel Aviv for talks with the Prime Minister tomorrow. Blinken says he will discuss measures Israel needs to take to increase the flow of aid into Gaza. A worsening humanitarian crisis has prompted calls from Israel's allies to do more to facilitate the entry of supplies. Most people in the territory are homeless. Many face famine. Disease is widespread, and much of the civilian infrastructure has been destroyed. A new prime minister has been chosen in Haiti as the country attempts to establish a stable new government. The newly installed Transitional Council announced today former sports minister Fritz Belizaire has been picked. The council will also choose a new cabinet. The changes are being made in an attempt to help quell gang violence in the capital. It has been under siege since gangs launched coordinated attacks at the end of February.
In Ottawa, the leader of the official opposition was ejected from the House of Commons today after making what the Speaker said were unparliamentary comments.
When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to withdraw that term, which is not considered parliamentary.
Mr. Speaker, I replace wacko with extremist.
I'm going to ask the Leader of the Opposition once again to just withdraw that comment.
I'll replace it with radical.
No,
That's his policy.
I am not asking to replace. I'm asking the Honourable Member to just simply withdraw.
I simply withdraw and replace with the aforementioned adjective.
Pursuant to the authority granted to me by Standing Order 11, I order you to withdraw from the House.
It happened during testy exchanges between Pierre Poilievre and the Prime Minister that prompted the Speaker to caution both men to rephrase their comments. As instructed, Poilievre left the chamber with the rest of the Conservative caucus walking out in protest. Earlier, Conservative MP Rachel Thomas was ejected after she said the Speaker was acting in a disgraceful manner.
In New York, a judge fined Donald Trump $9,000 today. The former U.S. president was held in contempt of court for repeatedly violating a gag order. He was barred from making public statements about witnesses, jurors, and others in his hush money case. The judge has warned there could be jail time if it happens again. Trump insists he was exercising his right to free speech.
In the UK, the King resumed public duties today after his cancer diagnosis sidelined the monarch for 3 months.
The King's visit to a cancer treatment center is the first of several public appearances he will make in the coming weeks. CTV's Sarah Plowman reports.
As King Charles stepped back into public duties, he shared his return with others battling cancer, sitting and talking at a treatment center in London. A king who now understands the shock of a diagnosis.
When he was asked how he was feeling, he said, "Much better, thanks." So people definitely breathing a tentative sigh of relief.
Sir, Your Majesty. With the Queen by his side, this was the first of several public engagements planned in the weeks ahead. A turning point after months away to treat his own cancer.
He recognizes more than anybody else how essential it is for the monarchy to be seen. It's not the sort of institution that can continue to thrive in an invisible environment.
The King's daughter-in-law, the Princess of Wales, is also dealing with a cancer diagnosis.
And I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
The palace hasn't given an update on how she's doing.
I think a lot of people, because we are now seeing King Charles III back at work, back to some sort of public duties, are now expecting, well, when will we see the Princess of Wales back out and about? We have no update at the moment.
Each handshake a chance to highlight the importance of early detection. Buckingham Palace says the King and Queen will also host the Emperor and Empress of Japan during a state visit in June. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
Canada and the other members of the G7 are committing to phasing out coal power by 2035. Energy and environment ministers from the 7 leading industrialized nations wrapped up their meeting in Italy today. This is the first time the G7 has explicitly referenced the phase-out, but left flexibility for countries heavily reliant on coal. The final communique included language that could extend the deadline to a time frame consistent with limiting the rise in global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrialized levels.
A lot of excitement today at a zoo in Cologne, Germany. 3 Asiatic lions born at the end of January made their public debut. In the first few weeks after their birth, the cubs stayed in the litter den with their mother. 2 of them are male, the other is a female. They're the first lion cubs at the zoo in 20 years. It has housed these types of lions for about a quarter of a century.
Coming up, patio season is in view, and the city wants to get folks dining and drinking al fresco sooner than ever. Just ahead, what's on the menu for this year's CafeTO program?
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, today is the deadline to file your taxes, although many Canadians have filed and already received their refunds. If you're late and owe the government money, you'll be charged interest, and rates have gone up. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
We're wrapping up the month of April in a fairly seasonal way, but the heat is on as we head in towards the middle and the end of the week, with temperatures climbing into the 20s thanks to a bit of a ridge in the jet stream. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast to plan out the first few days of May. And stay with us, we have another great night of shows for you right here on CTV.
A survey by H&R Block last week found that 7 million Canadians still had not filed their taxes.
Many will be scrambling to get them done by midnight, although some admit they're procrastinating because they fear they owe money. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. According to Revenue Canada, about 10% of Canadians never file a tax return. If you don't, you could be missing out on government benefits. Now, if you e-file your return and you're expecting a refund, you could have it within 5 days. There are some changes to the tax system when you're filing your return. 500,000 Canadians opened a first home savings account last year, hoping it can help them save a down payment for their first home.
It's definitely better than what we had before. And I think that, more in this case is better.
Greg Rondo of near Thunder Bay says he maxed out his account last year with $8,000 and hopes to invest another $8,000 this year. It will also help him get a larger tax refund.
I'm glad that I started investing and paying myself, and I'm seeing the returns already with the investments. It's super fun.
Along with the tax-free first home savings account, there's also a multi-generational home renovation tax credit. The tradesperson tool expenses deduction doubles from $500 to $1,000. There is also the anti-flipping rule, full taxation on a property if it's bought and sold within 365 days.
The automated system usually can assess the majority of the returns.
Revenue Canada is now able to process tax returns much faster. If your return is not complicated, you e-file and you're expecting a refund, it could be in your account within 5 days. There are Canadians who don't file a tax return, but they could be missing out on government money.
In order to also get benefits, like, for example, Canada Child Benefit or the GST credit, you need to file your tax return in order for the government to properly determine those credits and benefits.
We know mortgage rates have gone up, and the CRA has also raised rates when it comes to penalties if you owe the government money.
I believe the last quarter interest rate for CRA was 10%. So if you want to manage your tax situation well, you want to make sure that you're paying your tax installments and you're paying your taxes that are due on time.
Some Canadians don't file a tax return because they fear they owe money. There may be a language barrier, or they're unaware that they should. And tax software can walk you through filling out your return, and there are many free programs that you can use that are accepted by the government. You can find a list of them on Revenue Canada's website. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
It's a sure sign summer's around the corner.
The CafeTO program is set to return to Toronto's streets, and city officials are hoping it will do so with fewer roadblocks than last year. CTV's Janice Golding reports.
A toast outside the Eastbound Brewing Company on Queen East today.
Snip, 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 cutting all the red tape.
A celebration about a reduction in red tape that will allow this brew pub to open a patio by the May 2-4 long weekend.
There will be about 1,400 patios open through the CafeTO this year.
Last year, however, a very different story.
The CafeTO program was a bit of a mess.
In fact, the owners of Eastbound Brewing say they weren't able to open their patio until the end of June.
It caused a lot of stress, made it a little bit difficult to sort of plan. It was always, is it today, is it today?
A lot of, double checking things, and it ended up taking a lot more time to get it rolled out. We missed a good part of the season for that.
CafeTO was launched during the pandemic when indoor dining was restricted. The outdoor patio program allowed restaurants and bars to create sidewalk cafes, curb lane cafes, and patios on private property from spring to fall.
Brings out a lot of people. It gives another reason for people to come visit us in the neighborhood.
In 2022, a city study found CafeTO generated more than $203 million that year, with 1,300 businesses taking part. So it was made permanent in 2023. The rollout, however, not so smooth.
It wasn't clear as to which division is leading it, number one. Number two, it wasn't clear as to how many applications, what kind of application, when is the application.
In making it a permanent program, we also needed to ensure that all of the safety setups were appropriate and well reviewed. And so it was a little bit of pain last year, but we were able to use a number of those processes to get a jump start on this year.
The city says it's living up to its promise to streamline the program, and at this point it will have 90% of the curb lane patios open by the Victoria Day weekend.
It's outstanding. I mean, it brings neighborhood to life, so it's nice to get it done quickly.
Our goal of at least 90% of
which means Eastbound Brewing Company and other businesses will be able to get a jump start on patio season. Janice Golding, CTV News.
It sure is nice to be talking about patio season, and we actually have some patio weather this week.
Yeah, like tomorrow in the 20s, or the next day at least. So yeah, why not hit a patio and enjoy?
It's like the little engine that could. We're getting there as we head in towards the end of the week. Tomorrow, very seasonal, really beautiful. Sunshine in the second half of the day, so happy hour will be fantastic. But getting into Thursday and Friday, that's when it's into the 20s, and we hold on to that sunshine and that warmth as we welcome in the month of May, which begins tomorrow. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. We've seen a lot today. We saw drizzle this morning, a little sunshine this afternoon. We've got fog now, but it remains quite mild. It's a very transitional day, quite fitting as we wrap up the month of April and step into the month of May. Temperature-wise, it's not so bad. We know we're sitting at 15. We're at 22 through Windsor, even Northern Ontario holding on quite nice. Thunder Bay sitting at 10 degrees. Tonight, really no change. We're holding on to a lot of that warmth that we have built up throughout the day, that kind of muggy feeling. We're sitting at 10 tonight. We should be at 6. We're a little closer to seasonal the further east you go. Into that southwestern corner, we're kind of just hovering around 5-6 degrees above where we should be. Into the day tomorrow, right on par here in the city of Toronto, but much warmer. That ridge in the jet stream that kind of divides the colder air to the north and the warmer air to the south is going to overtake us throughout the entire province. So London, Goderich, Waterloo, Hamilton, they're already there as they kind of head throughout the day. Tomorrow, we get there as we head in towards our Thursday. That first line of showers continues to push its way out. Another one on the way tomorrow, but it will stay in Northern Ontario. So if you're in the extreme kind of north end of the city, in the GTA, you might see a few kind of light showers, but for the most part, we are done. For the folks at Maple Leaf Square, nice and dry for them. It'll be a little cloudy out there, but overall quite mild. Into the day tomorrow, we'll see a few peaks of sun off and on throughout the day. Sunnier still into the second half of our Wednesday, and then as we head in towards our Thursday, Friday, the sun really starts to push through as high pressure settles in. A few light clouds, high level clouds as we head into Thursday, so it won't darken things too much. And then as we make our way in towards the end of the week, beautiful sunshine. It'll be fantastic. This is your reminder now to put the sunglasses and the sunscreen in the car. Temperature-wise, tomorrow we are at that seasonal mark to start the day off, but we hold on to a really warm, kind of muggy evening. Thursday, the sunshine comes out in the afternoon, 22 degrees, 20 on Friday. The overnight low Thursday is the closest to seasonal that we have for the rest of this week. Looking ahead to the weekend, there's a slight chance of a few light passing showers, but honestly, it is not a downpour by any means. And as we settle into the first full week of May, it will be fantastic. Michelle, I'll send things back to you.
All right. Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, being treated like a king. Cancer patients here react to King Charles Hospital visit, his message, and its impact. Coming up.
As we showed you earlier, King Charles surprised and delighted patients at a London cancer center today.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan talks about the reaction to the King's public battle from those who've dealt with the disease on this side of the Atlantic.
Accompanied by Queen Camilla, King Charles returned to public duties for the first time since his cancer diagnosis was announced on February 5th. They spoke with medical specialists and patients at the University College Hospital Macmillan Cancer Centre for about an hour. Speaking with patient Leslie Woodbridge, the King said, "It's always a bit of a shock, isn't it, when they tell you?" Many asked how he himself was doing, to which he replied he was not too bad. And he sympathized with one patient, saying he would have treatment this afternoon as well.
It just reinforces the reality that cancer touches us all. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, you have a likelihood of experiencing a cancer diagnosis. And it's so important for cancer patients to know that they're not alone.
Christina Smith is CEO of Wellspring, a Canada-wide cancer support program, and a cancer survivor herself.
That affects the whole family in one way or another. And that's what's good about Wellspring. We can support the whole family. We have programs and services available for everyone, whether caregiver, bereaved, whether you're newly diagnosed, whether you're end stage.
She says cancer patients around the world are encouraged by the strength and openness, not only of the King, but also his daughter-in-law, the Princess of Wales, who is also battling an undisclosed form of cancer.
I think that sent shock waves through the entire world to see someone so fit and healthy to be diagnosed with cancer and clearly undergoing treatment. We wish them nothing but the best, absolutely, and I'm sure they're in excellent hands.
Dylan Buskermolen, who was treated for Hodgkin's lymphoma at age 19, says the King's message for early detection is key.
If I had known to be on the lookout for those signs, I, in all likelihood, would have gone sooner and probably caught my diagnosis at an earlier stage. And so whether it's a situation like that, whether it's PSA testing or breast cancer screening, these are all methods of early detection and screening for cancer diagnoses, and they're just becoming so much more important.
Doctors have not specified what kind of cancer the King has, but say they are encouraged by his progress, noting he showed plenty of energy and even used the stairs instead of the elevator during his visit. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Next to concern from Toronto's shelter staff as the number of violent assaults in the city's shelter system has risen dramatically.
CTV's Natalie Johnson has more on the urgent calls to address the issue.
With the strain on Toronto's shelter system at an all-time high, the number of critical incidents, including violence against staff and users, has increased dramatically over a decade.
Complex issues such as the drug toxicity crisis, increasing poverty, the homelessness crisis, and frankly, unmet mental health needs across the city, all collaborate to create a very complex situation.
Researchers from CAMH found that critical incidents in the shelter system have been steadily climbing since 2011, concluding more action is needed. Physical assaults on staff were up 424%. Physical assaults on clients up 208%.
I hope that there's validation in the challenges that shelter staff experience in their everyday jobs. I hope there's validation in what service users of the shelter system experience when they're looking to find a bed for the night.
36% of Toronto shelter staff reported feeling unsafe at work, while 43% of Black and Indigenous staff said they experienced daily racism. The majority of shelter staff also reported direct exposure to constant screaming, verbal abuse, or threats to physical safety on at least a weekly basis.
I think a lot of the behaviors that are presenting in the shelter system can sometimes be very much misidentified and seen as being threatening. I've been doing this work a long time as a frontline worker, and if someone is screaming, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean that someone is a threat.
City staff can temporarily deny individuals access to the shelter as a means of responding to incidents, but putting them out on the street can cut off their access to supports and expose them to further harm.
Everybody has a right to have their needs met, and we have to figure out a way to do it that actually serves the person who needs those additional supports and that keeps the rest of the residents safe.
City staff will report back with a shelter safety action plan by year's end. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
After the break, investors are buzzing over weed. We'll tell you why pot stocks surged today, just ahead in business.
As the vehicle drove erratically,
I saw his white headlights coming at me, and I thought to myself, is this guy going the wrong way? Yes, he is.
Updating our top stories, a wrong-way crash on the 401 following a police chase has killed 4 people. Investigators say an infant and their grandparents are among the dead.
I still think they got enough talent to pull it off. They just got to come together, play well, take one game at a time, anything can happen.
I'm probably more of the cynic in the relationship. He likes to have faith that they still have a chance. I'm more, that wasn't a great few games, so I'm not as confident as he is, but I'd love to see them win. I still think they can do it.
The Leaf season all hangs on tonight. Win and the team continues their playoff run. Lose and it's a first-round knockout. Fans are hoping the league's leading scorer will take the ice.
And it's a sign summer is not far off. The CafeTO program is set to launch with 90% of the patios open by the May 2-4 weekend. Officials hope the program will roll out without the headaches that accompanied it last year.
And remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video breaking news, let us know.
Shares in Canadian cannabis companies jumped today as the U.S. may soon loosen some of its drug laws. Amber Canwar, BNN Bloomberg, brings us the latest in business.
The U.S. could be nearing the biggest change to drug policy in 50 years. Multiple reports suggest the U.S. Drug Agency is close to labeling marijuana a less severe drug. Right now, it's classified as Schedule 1 in the same category as heroin, but reportedly will now label it Schedule 3, which acknowledges its medicinal use. Shares of marijuana producers jumped across the board with gains between 30 and 60% today. Now let's take a look at the closing market numbers. The Canadian dollar edged down to around 72 cents U.S., while U.S. oil prices slipped to the lowest level in a month, below $82 per barrel. Canadian energy prices also slipped by $1 per barrel, and it was a down day on the TSX, shedding about 300 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Amber Canwar in the BNN Bloomberg Newsroom.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Calling it a game changer for the region, the Premier announced construction on Highway 413 will begin next year.
But the expedited timeline isn't sitting well for some in the area. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the story.
In Caledon, big and rapid changes are paving the way. Archie Armstrong grew up here and grows corn and beans near the site of the new Highway 13. Construction on the project is now set to start next year.
I guess it's just a necessary thing that has to happen here. I mean, we're not super thrilled about it, but I mean, it is what it is.
Armstrong says land in southern Ontario is some of the best in the country, and development reduces the amount of crops farmers can grow.
We can't grow anything on pavement, so it is an issue I wish would be brought to more people's attention that, you know, losing farmland at such a fast rate, we aren't going to get it back.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford says Highway 413 will be a game changer. 6 lanes, 52 kilometers, stretching north of Highway 407 between York Region and Halton, connecting to the 401, 407, and 400 highways. The 413 has been a major campaign promise for the Premier.
By mid-May, we'll be hosting a market-sounding event with key private sector experts to discuss ways to move construction forward quickly and efficiently.
In Caledon East, residents have different views about the highway being built.
I think it's going to be a lot of work to put it in, for one thing, and it's going to probably take a long time, and it's not going to be cheap for any of us.
It takes a lot of the pressure off Mayfield Road, which is becoming too hectic. It's unfortunate for the farmland, but as far as traffic and congestion goes, it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah, I commute to work all the way to Scarborough. Yeah, it's kind of far, but it's I think it would be good to have the 413 there.
Earlier this year, Ottawa and Queen's Park came to an agreement that would allow the project to move forward without an important environmental review. The Ontario government hopes to start land acquisitions this fall, with construction underway in 2025. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Just ahead, we check out the gourmet food options to feed more than 15,000 Olympic-sized appetites during the 2024 Paris Games. The recipes for success coming up.
Canadian athletes and their competition will be fueled by France cuisine at this summer's Olympic and Paralympic Games. More than 500 recipes have been created, including 120 daily specials, a third of them entirely vegetarian. The restaurant in the Athletes Village will seat up to 3,500 and will be open around the clock. Several chefs will be involved, including one whose restaurant received 3 Michelin stars. That food looks good.
Yeah, plus we got patio season. It seems like the theme is food.
And now I am starving. It's going to be a beautiful night for the folks out at Maple Leaf Square. It's not cold. It's not hot. We're kind of in that perfect in between, like, you know, the Goldilocks and the porch and the Three Bears. It's kind of in that perfect in between temperature. As we head in towards the day tomorrow, very seasonal. After that, into the 20s, it will be fantastic. For now, it is comfortable. We're sitting at 15 still here in the city. And as we head in towards the beginning of May tomorrow, beautiful. And by the time we get to Thursday, Friday, even nicer. So a lot to look forward to as we step in towards the end of the week. And a reminder about the new Lotto 649 with 2 big jackpots to be won on 1 ticket. Wednesday's classic jackpot is $5 million and the new gold ball jackpot is $40 million. You can head to olg.ca for more information.
All right, thank you, Jess. Be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Altman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CB24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us, thanks for watching and have a good night.